So I normally don't review individual Transformers. However, Patreon clone commander Sparrow1115's favorite Decepticon is Sideways. And for one of his Patreon requests, he wanted me to take a look at the new studio series Sideways. And I think I probably would have made a video on this guy anyway, because this is surprisingly one of the coolest and one of the best Studio Series Deluxes from the Bayformer movies that I've seen in a long time. Studio Series for me, it's been kind of hit or miss. I'm not a super big fan of the super tiny figures that have a lot of the little tiny parts that are hard to move and configure and get into the right place. So I kind of usually prefer the 86 or some of the Bumblebee movie stuff because it's simpler, it's more traditional. However, this just really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be like this, and I didn't expect it to be this good. This figure's just really fun, really great. I don't really have too many issues with it. My only real issue are the ball-jointed ankles that are kind of loosey-goosey, because he kind of struggles to stand with them. Other than that, he's pretty great. I really do like him. I like his colors, I like his head sculpt. This is actually the first time in my collection that I have had a Revenge of the Fallen Sideways. I reviewed the Cybertron Sideways a little bit ago, and that was also a Sparrow1115 request, because I kind of said, hey, I don't have a Sideways yet, I'm going to get the Studio Series, can I do this one in the meantime? So I did. However, this guy really surprises me. So even though I didn't have a Sideways before, oh my goodness, he is not. Oh my goodness, there we go. So I didn't have a Sideways before, but I did have the mold. I've already discussed the Dino repaint in my old versus new of Dino. I wanted Dino, but I didn't really want Sideways. So I ended up with Dino, and you can see there's quite a size difference between the original Revenge of the Fallen Sideways mold and this new one. To be fair, I do have Dino's legs straight. This mold is more intended to have like some, chicken legs. However, I want Dino to look more humanoid, so he would be a little shorter if I readjusted his legs a bit. However, the old one is just a much bigger toy. It just is. Despite that, it's much bigger, but the new one is much, much better. I personally really do love the new one. I like the large arms, I love how the torso collapses, I love the look of it, I love the sculpt. It's just really superior in pretty much every way. I'm really surprised with it, I'm really happy with it. And overall, if you're a Bayformer fan, me personally, I hate Revenge of the Fallen. It's not a good movie. But I love the toys, and I love the figures and the characters, and I'm really happy to have this Sideways. So taking a closer look here for the comparison, you can see the old mold is kind of gangly in some ways. It's very, very odd. It's always been a very odd one to me. I did modify it. I did take the wheels off the hands because Dino didn't have those. That was a very Sideways thing. It was just always an odd figure. Very, very spindly, very thin. It kind of spread out all over the place and ended up with a huge torso and these really thin limbs. I thought it was a pretty cool Dino figure, and I mean, I've kept it around despite the Studio Series Dino being much better. However, I just wasn't a big enough fan of the mold itself to get it in any other character other than Dino. Dino was the one I wanted, and that's the one I ended up with. So taking a look at this new Studio Series Sideways, look at that head sculpt. That is fierce. That is fierce. It is so cool looking. I love all the silver paint. I love the little striping and everything. He is just head to toe. He is covered in all this silver paint. Well, I shouldn't say head to toe because at the legs it starts thinning out. He only has some silver, a little bit of the thigh and a little bit of the shin. However, I feel like it still kind of works. I feel like the grays match. I feel like it's a pretty good color scheme overall. I really do love his gun, too. He's got this really cool, like, tri-barreled gun. I don't even really remember it from the movie. I'm sure it was there. Sideways basically appeared to be like, ah, and then he got cut in half. That's what he did. However, this figure, for being of a character that hardly appeared, I really like it. You can see the ball joints at the feet are really loose. They are kind of a struggle to work with. However, despite that, if you do get him working, and if you get him working in your favor, you can get this guy in some pretty cool poses. You also have a waist swivel with him, too. So you can really get him in some pretty... Look at that pose. That's a very movie Decepticon pose. I'm just so happy with this guy. He doesn't have a lot of pieces that are just flailing all over the place. He's very solid. Oftentimes with like the smaller Studio Series figures, I'm messing with it, and things just kind of end up in places I don't want. However, look at how compact the back is. Like lifting up the arm, look at how all of the pieces of the car are like neatly folded up. He doesn't look like he has a big backpack. That's just like his, his body. He's just got a stout little body. It works. I'm really happy with it. Like I said, the head sculpt looks really cool, very Decepticon-y. This little detail in the front of the pieces coming together, I think is pretty interesting too. I love these little panels that spread out on the arms, and they're tight enough they don't just flail everywhere. And I love how the hands come together. Very Barricade-y. Very similar to Barricade. I mean, the whole character design is very similar to Barricade. However, I just think it's so cool how the wheels go into those kind of fake, sort of spiked wheels right there. But it still gives the impression like, yeah, his wheels are in his hands. Like, it definitely looks how it should. The weapon, it just kind of slots into that little peg right there, and I think it works pretty well. The hand just, goes inside it. And it does still have a peg on it. There's not really a lot of peg holes on this guy. One of the only ones I can think of was, like, on the top of the car. I think he has one on the top of the car. So yeah, it doesn't... I guess it just makes it compatible to use with other figures for the most part. Just a little thing to hold. But other than that, it's pretty good. I'm just really impressed with this guy, honestly. His articulation, he's got a few hinges at the shoulders, but he's mostly got a ball joint for the motion there. You can see you get pretty much all the range you'd really want. He's got a ball joint at the elbows, so you get pretty much all the motion there too. Studio Series figures still use ball joints, even though the majority of other generations figures have kind of foregone them. He's got a thumb and finger articulation too. Like I said, he's got that waist that's really nice. Ball joints at the hips, hinges and swivels at the knees that go pretty tight. And my only real issue are these loose little ball joints at the feet. They're just a little too loose. I mean, they're not like flopping everywhere, but it kind of struggles with poses. And of course, I think I forgot his head's on a ball joint. So you don't get a lot of tilt, but you do get just a little bit. So again, you add a little bit of character to him. I'm just really happy with this guy, honestly. I was really surprised with him. So let's transform him. Let's get down to it. So per usual, per standard, Jcc2224 fashion, I don't remember off the top of my head. I didn't rehearse this. So let's just go through it. Let's just see how fun this is. If I recall correctly, this is actually a pretty fun and intuitive transformation. One of the things I actually struggled with were lining up the legs. Because I was thinking, how do the legs line up? I think you actually rotate the legs. Another thing, too, I've noticed this kind of slides on this mushroom. So I don't know if you rotate the legs or the thigh. I don't think you do. No, you don't. So the legs kind of fold up over the body and the head to kind of form this weird little... They almost look like guts. It's like you have these little robot guts that are made of his head, body, and legs right there that will go inside the car. But once you start forming it, you can see a lot of it just accordions out. There is no peg on the top, I was mistaken. A lot of it just accordions out in a really interesting way. And the arms, they're pretty easy to figure out. Just kind of straighten things up. Get the hands straight. It's one of those where when I first was transforming it, I wasn't irritated. Because a big reason I don't get and review a lot of Bayform or Studio Series stuff is because they're really tiny and irritating. And I prefer the older version because it's larger and it's not as finicky and not as frustrating. But this one, man, I'm really impressed. It's just so... I feel like it's a genuine puzzle I'm trying to figure out here. I don't feel like I'm trying to wrestle with something that's, going in every single direction. There we go. Then that'll kind of go forward. You can see I'm almost there. One thing you have to be mindful of are how the hands go around the hips there, because it's almost like he's going to be holding his own hips. You can see it's coming together. Just some tabs to line up. Nothing super major. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I got most of it. Again, some tabs here and there. But yeah, no, it's not falling apart. It's complete. There we go. He's all nice and compact in there, and it actually rolls pretty decent. I'm pretty surprised about that. And this car mode is so slick. Look at these stripes going down the middle, and I love the dark color meshed with the silver, and I love how the dark color kind of intrudes into the silver a little bit on the sides too. This car is really slick. Now there's not really a decent place for the gun storage. It goes on the back. Wow. No, don't even bother. For a second I thought it had a peg on the top, but I'm kind of happy it doesn't, because that would have broken up the striping, which otherwise is pretty consistent and pretty nice looking. Man, this is just such a cool figure. I'm really happy with this one. I mean, look at that. Look at how compact it is. There's no hollow bits. It's like the entire figure was put to use. Man, whoever engineered this did a pretty good job. This is one of my favorite Studio Series Bayformer figures by far. I'm really happy with it. It was so fun. Oftentimes when I get these Bayformer Studio Series, I keep them by the desk for a little bit, but I don't really transform them again. I do it once when I first get it, and I'm like, yeah, let's avoid that. Like, they've done Bumblebee who knows how many times now, but that mold is kind of irritating, so I only have it a couple times. But this, man, I'm pretty happy with it. There's not really an opportunity for a repaint, unfortunately, unless they would do one of those Nest ones, because they've been making everybody gray, but he's already silver and gray, so I don't I don't know. I've been rambling long enough. Very cool figure, highly recommended. Special thanks to Sparrow1115 for recommending me taking a look at him, because I'm very happy. Honestly, I was debating getting it or not. I didn't pre-order it or anything. I was kind of waiting to see it in stores. But, you know, Sparrow1115, he wanted me to take a look at it, and I was like, well, I don't have the sideways, so let me get it. And I'm very, very happy I did. Highly recommend this one. Super cool. Really fun. Alrighty, I think I've rambled long enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. Special shout out to the patrons of Patreon, as always, especially Sparrow1115 for requesting this video. I really appreciate all the support. Alrighty guys, there we go. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.